I'm a political theorist, so I get to ask two questions, one philosophical and one political.
This is a natural right of political theorists. They get two questions.
The first, I was struck by how you answered Mr. Blankenhorn's question about religious liberty, because the first thing you did was not talk about liberty, but was to talk about institutions. And then you proceeded to talk about the good of religion, but not about the good of religion in terms of the liberty to express oneself outside religion in a way that was embraced by religion itself. It seems like if you can embrace religion, if religion embraces non-religious conscience, then indeed what is the distinctive value of religious liberty? So that's the first question. And related to that is how you understand the relation between reason and faith, because I thought you just fudged on that one. The second is the more political one, and this raises something that Mr. Blankenhorn, I think, didn't want us to discuss, but I think it's probably worth discussing anyways, and that's the HHS mandate, especially in terms of the questions that were raised in terms of the obligations one has towards one's conscience or one's vocation in performing acts related to contraception or acts related to contraception. We shouldn't talk about that, but I mean acts related to the deliverance of contraception and abortion. And if you could sort of say what you have to say about that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'm not sure I got the first. I might have to call you back to make sure I got the first one.
The first one, the question was about the right of religious liberty. Yeah. And it seems to me that if you're going to talk about that as a right, you would have to talk about conscience. That was, as you did, but conscience is broader than religion. So I wasn't clear about, right, but so then I wasn't clear about what the particular value of religious liberty is, as opposed to the right of conscience.
Okay, I've got a broad understanding of religion, right? It's Eliada's understanding of religion. This is the idea that we should be raising fundamental questions about the meaning of life, where we come from, where we're going, whether there are any more than merely human sources of meaning and value, really, whether we do have spiritual powers or only have the illusion of spiritual powers like free choice, and then we should act with integrity in line with our best judgments as to those questions as we move forward through life. Now, it could be, and in most cases in our own society, it seems to be the case that people reach conclusions that fit into what we ordinarily in common discourse speak of as religion. So someone will become a Presbyterian or a Catholic, or might move from a less observant to a more observant form of Judaism, or what have you.
That's the way they engage those questions.
That's right. And then there are other people who are going to reach negative conclusions on the God question, and they're not going to be practicing religion in the ordinary sense of the word. They're not affiliated with a church or a tradition. They may avow themselves to be agnostics or atheists. But the right to religious freedom covers their conscientious beliefs and their efforts to live within the requirements of the common good. You can't just do anything, but within those broad parameters, their efforts to live with integrity in light of their own best judgments. That's why I said that to force an atheist to go to church, or to force an atheist to make pro-religious statements or theological statements, is to deny him the bit of the good of religion that is his, even as an atheist. So I don't see what the problem is. If I'm fudging, it's not something I'm doing deliberately. I'm trying to be as forthright as possible. Do you see any problem with what I've said?
Yeah.
Or any unclarity?
Yes.
What's the unclarity?
Because it doesn't seem to me that you're making a distinction that's clear between what's religious and what's non-religious.
Let me try again.
No, I'll tell you why. I mean, there are all sorts of ways in which people can pursue the questions that you're talking about in non-religious ways, and to call, which you seem to accept, but then you want to embrace those activities as religious activities.
There are two senses of religion. This might be what is confusing you. There are two senses of religion. There's the ordinary use of the term in common discourse, where we use it to denote someone who is a Presbyterian, or a Muslim, or a Jew, or a Methodist, or a Buddhist, right? So someone might say, who doesn't belong to any of those, isn't a believer, say, I'm not religious. But what I'm trying to say to you is there's a broader anthropological sense of religion,
So you're just saying,
which names a good of the human person, an aspect of our flourishing, something that we would be disappointed if our children did not pursue. And that is raising the existential questions, trying to seriously think about what is the meaning of this. Do I really exercise a power of freedom? Or is that merely an illusion? And I'm actually determined, neurons firing in the brain or whatever. To raise those questions and to answer them and live with integrity in line with one's best answer. I'm saying, let's call that with Eliot the good of religion. And in that sense, everybody has the right to religious freedom. Religious freedom protects everybody's right, including the right of the unbeliever. Now, you said I fudged on faith and reason, and that really puzzles me. I don't see how I could be clearer.
We got to go quicker, though.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Do you want to? I don't want. By the way, it's not up to. I'm not saying don't talk about the HHS mandate.
Yeah.
Do you want to say just briefly on the HHS mandate?
I mean, it seems to me it's going to be governed by RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act was enacted by overwhelming bipartisan majorities in Congress in the late 1990s to try to overturn the Supreme Court's decision, the opinion by Justice Scalia in Employment Division against Smith. It was struck down with respect to state laws, but upheld with respect to federal laws. So it will be the federal law that's required, which means that the Obama administration is going to have to, if it wants to sustain these contraception and abortion drug mandates, it's going to have to argue that the policy is required in order to pursue a compelling state interest and constitutes the least intrusive or restrictive or invasive means of pursuing that interest. And it seems to me the administration has no hope of prevailing. I don't think it'll ever reach the Supreme Court. I suspect it'll be.
Also, the chief domestic policy advisor under President Clinton, Bill Galston, who was that administration's point person on the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, says exactly the same thing that Robbie's saying, that Bill, feels that this is not going to be able to withstand that examination. So we'll see.